The story starts with our protagonist Hiroto giving a speech who is the highest-ranked student at Academy, and he is filled with an extreme sense of superiority and pride while undermining everyone around him. His speech triggers almost every student attending the orientation program. After the speech, Hiroto heads backstage and realizes the full extent of what he has just said and is terrified of the consequences that might come with it. Academy Island is an institution funded by the Saionji Corporation with a highly advanced technology infrastructure, and the institution has an important ranking system based on the number of stars earned by winning games. The highest ranking student can achieve is 7 stars. It's Hiroto's first day on the island and he bumps into Sarasa Shinji while searching for his academy building. On inquiry, Sarasa laughs at the fact that he's in the wrong district and offers to walk him to the right one. Sarasa doesn't take him seriously and just sees this as him creating an opportunity to talk to her, and she pokes fun at him while briefing him about some of the basic know-how of the Academy Islands. She briefs him about how to use the device while flexing how higher-ranking students can check the details of lower rankers. However, on reaching District 4, she realizes she too has an orientation to attend and leaves, but just as she does, a water sprinkler blasts a jet of water at her, drenching her completely. She instantly suspects that this is something plotted by Hiroto and thinks he is deliberately playing dumb to humiliate her. She hysterically bursts into flames and challenges him to a game, thinking defeating him will be the best revenge. Not knowing anything about a game or how to play one, Hiroto accepts with the agreement that she will hear him out once it's over. Sarasa sets up the game request in the rules and she selects the restrictions generally applied by a lower-level student to give them an edge. The fact that Hiroto would use the facilities feels like an attempt to insult her. She sets up a turn-based staring contest on hard mode, and the rules of this game are similar to the You Laugh, You Lose challenge, except this is hard mode and any expression can cost you the game. She uses her ability to reduce Hiroto's time to 1/10, which gives her an unfair advantage. The game starts and it's her chance to get Hiroto out of the game, and her device turns into a sword and she frantically tries to strike him to get a reaction. Hiroto is quick to dodge these attacks and survives the round expressionless. As soon as it's Hiroto's chance, the water jet blasts again, drenching Sarasa completely. With a huge crowd gathered to watch the game, she gets completely embarrassed and starts wailing, and this counts as an expression and Hiroto wins the match. After the victory, Hiroto is instantly called by the headmistress. On arrival, he learns he has made a huge mistake breaking a precarious taboo. Sarasa was Masamune Shinji's granddaughter, making her a VIP, and she was also a 7-star and ranked highest in the entrance exam grades. The headmistress states the problem is that the news will spread that Sarasa lost to a 1-star student, and that could upset Masamune Shinji, but Hiroto could avoid that problem by using the red star to lie that he is a 7-star as well, which most likely won't stir up any conflict. After the speech, Hiroto heads over to the dorm arranged by the headmistress. On the way, he encounters Sarasa in a dark alley as she is still trying to grasp why he is playing so dumb and why he wants to target her. Sarasa is worried that Hiroto is an inheritor of the Red Star and has already figured out that she isn't the real Sarasa. However, he clarifies that he wasn't deliberately doing so and he is a newbie. This means she only has herself to blame, and the two agree that the lie will be kept secret and no one will get to know. Hiroto makes it to the dorm and is surprised by how magnificent it is. Inside, he is greeted by his live-in assistant Shirayuki Himeji, a student of District 3's Aoka Academy, and Hiroto is surprised and nervous by the formality and hospitality and urges Shirayuki to take it easy and relax. The two then head over to have a huge lavish dinner prepared for Hiroto, who isn't used to this level of luxury, and insists her to also dine with him. The pair head to a secret room for a strategic briefing session. A 1-star pretending to be a 7-star using the red star is almost like a scam and needs to proceed with caution. Shirayuki briefs Hiroto about the regions and academy ranking of the island. In reality, Hiroto is also only a 1-star and will only be able to use the level 1 attacks. Given the drawbacks, it is in the company's best interest that Hiroto maintains the 7-star status and will go to any lengths to back him up. Hiroto is introduced to the 5 members who will assist him in winning the games. Kagaya is the tech support that can use hacking as a means to win a game. Later that day, Hiroto pulls an easy win with Kagaya's hacking skills. Back on campus though, Hiroto has already gained popularity, and the class has a tournament just to decide who gets to show him around. This tour is interrupted as Hiroto receives another favorable game request. This game event is organized by the Libra Media organization and is held in a huge stadium with a cheering audience, and the challenger for this game is Urasaka Haru-senpai, a rank 3-star. Urasaka challenges Hiroto to an anything-goes 100-meter race. For the race, Urasaka brings out her motorbike, and as per prior research, Urasaka generally uses 3 abilities that are the defensive ability, and if all goes as planned, Hiroto's interferences will not be blocked. However, as Urasaka now reveals, she is indeed using the nullify interference by the opponent's ability. Urasaka starts the race at an extremely high speed, but upon heading for the finish line the bike abruptly stops and she falls off. Prior to the match, Shirayuki selected completely disable as one of his abilities, and this ability temporarily disables all the defensive abilities of the opponent. The next ability used was force stop, and finally the most important, Kagaya's hacking to make the bike stop, and this bags Hiroto yet another victory. After the match, Rina reluctantly walks up to Hiroto for not being able to see him to humiliated. However, he's also glad he didn't lose and lets the next holder of the star know her true identity. Rina hands him an invitation note to meet up with her at a cafeteria. The two meet undercover at a cafe and get talking about what's going on. Rina Akabane starts to tell him about how things came to be this way. The Sainji family's kids never left the house until about high school, so they have companions instead, and Rina was one of them. However, one day Sarasa got kidnapped and the family was waiting for word from the kidnappers. In the meanwhile, they needed someone to take the place of Sarasa, and that's why Rina had to maintain the lie with a 100% clear record, and she also explains that Aime's headmistress wouldn't have a reason to protect him if the girl he beat wasn't Sarasa. This will be a problem for Hiroto as he had a very specific purpose of being there. He was looking for someone, specifically a childhood friend who he hadn't seen in years and believed to be on this island. He couldn't afford to do anything that would get him kicked off the island, and the two form an alliance and exchange ID to stay in touch. The next morning, as Rina shows up at Hiroto's academy feeling kind of bummed that he didn't text her the night before, and their conversation is interrupted by someone seeking revenge on behalf of the Empress. Hiroto confidently accepts the challenge and sets the game for Sunday. Rina and Hiroto then decide to meet for strategic planning, and upon arriving at the dorm, she is shocked to see Shirayuki, who knows about Rina's lie as she used to serve the Saionji family. There seems to be a sense of hostility between the two. This is a strategy planning meeting, and Kugisaki has selected a self-made 27-form game, and the game entails collecting cards numbered 0 to 19 spread out across the region to make a hand of 5 and complete numerically. Shirayuki devises a plan to obstruct opponents' movements and gain an advantage, even if numerical adjustment is used. Hiroto faces a significant challenge due to the huge rank gap in abilities, and considering this, Shirayuki advises him to select numerical adjustment, luck, and display bug. Sunday finally arrives, and it's time for the game to begin. Right at the start, Hiroto's luck ability places 2 high-value cards closer to himself, but Kugisaki has already managed to pick up 2 cards, which generally shouldn't have been revealed yet, and this means he is using the Explore ability. Hiroto realizes that 5 minutes of the game have already passed, but more cards haven't been revealed yet, and it becomes evident that Kugisaki is using Explore to look up all the cards and collect every one of them before they even appear to Hiroto. This could mean he won't get to see any more cards throughout the game, and Kugisaki's goal is to collect 18 out of the 20 cards to guarantee victory. Hiroto manages to collect the 14 cards, but Kugisaki also uses emergency mobilization to have his men block public transport. Luckily, Headmistress Ichinos got Urasaka to offer Hiroto a bike ride, and he finds the next card over the ledge of the 3rd floor and ends up falling 2 stories and passing out while collecting it. Upon regaining consciousness, he is gravely injured with blood flowing out of his forehead. However, it's not time to give up as Hiroto still burns with the desire to find his friend and protect Rina's lie. She is surprised by his determination and tells him the absolute truth. Sarasa wasn't really kidnapped. She wished to go to a normal school, so Rina made it look like she was kidnapped and took her to the mainland. Hiroto has come too far into the competition to back down, and he devises a plan to use the Rule Breaker ability to manipulate the game. When returning for the reveal, Kugisaki has collected 18 cards, whereas Hiroto has only 2. However, Hiroto has a trick up his sleeve, and he buys Kagaya some time to hack by stalling the final judgment. He then reveals that he used Rule Breaker to change a rule, stating that the game ends if either side runs out of cards in the reveal stage. Enraged that the battle has ended in a draw, Kugisaki discards his cards to prepare for a rematch, but just then, Hiroto points out that the rule change wasn't really Rule Breaker. It was the display bug ability. Now Kugisaki has run out of cards while Hiroto still has the 1 card he didn't discard. This wins Hiroto the game, and he is still gravely injured and is rushed to the healthcare center. Shirayuki and Headmistress Ichinos have a meeting at her office, while Hiroto gained the Indigo Star from his last battle with Kugisaki, And ideally this does not happen as the regular white stars get replaced with colored ones, but if there aren't any, a colored star is added altogether. This means there is a possibility Hiroto can become an all-colored 7-star. During a walk along the corridors, Hiroto overhears Shirayuki practicing a speech from one of the rooms. She leaves Aoka Academy to join Aimi Academy, and after delivering the joining speech, the class teacher announces the mock games for the Inter-Academy contest selection. This game mode will not involve an exchange of stars. It is a last man standing game. During the break, Shirayuki and Hiroto decide to come up with a strategy to secure the winner's position, but they are interrupted by Akizuki Noa, a girl from the 3rd year. She tries hitting on Hiroto, knowing he's the most popular student around, but Shirayuki advises Hiroto to stay away from Akizuki given her reputation as the 6-star little devil. Hiroto then heads over to Headmistress Ichinos, and she has gone through a lot of trouble getting Shirayuki transferred to Aimi Academy and needs something in return. She proceeds to inform Hiroto about the green star that has been stolen in transit, and it is believed to have the power of some perception-altering ability and can be very dangerous in the wrong hands. Ichinos believes the person who stole it will come after Hiroto during the event, and she needs his help to root out the culprit. The day of the trial tournament begins. Hiroto and Shirayuki avoid as many people as possible, but unfortunately after the lecture, the jamming fails to block the challenge sent by Akizuki. Later that evening, Kagaya works on developing a new application to avoid receiving challenges, and the application takes any invitation received by Hiroto and transfers it to Shirayuki's device, so Shirayuki accepts them instead. It also has an emergency bail feature which can only be used once. The next day, Shirayuki engages in a game on behalf of Hiroto, and during this time, Hiroto just needs to avoid contact with anyone as Shirayuki is already engaged in a battle on his behalf. He runs into an alley and receives a call from her that almost 200 students are closing in on his location looking for a battle. Hiroto begins to make a run for it, but unfortunately he runs into Akizuki and the two of them fall, and Akizuki holds him down so he cannot flee, and the students close in on Hiroto, but Shirayuki reaches there just in time to send him a request and occupy the slot. Akizuki's plan is still successful as now many students have seen Hiroto actively avoiding battle, putting his name in a questionable position. Later that evening, Shirayuki realizes they do not have any cutlet sauce for dinner and leaves the dorm to buy some from the store. A few minutes later, Hiroto receives a call from Akizuki, and she has held Shirayuki captive and is going to use her to expose Hiroto's truth. She requests Hiroto not to try and win the next game, and despite this, Hiroto and Rina sit together and brainstorm a strategy. The two have no clue how to contact the company, but fortunately Kagaya walks in. Hiroto brings Kagaya up to speed with the kidnapping, and Kagaya does not recognize Rina, as she is strangely wrapped in a hoodie. The three of them discuss a strategy to win the Scale Love Triangle game against Shirayuki, and according to the rules, each player starts with 10 cards and plays 1 card against each other, and the player with the superior card wins the hand. Meanwhile, Hiroto receives a text from Shirayuki with the abilities she plans to use the next day. She plans to use probability fluctuation to eliminate randomness and secure set A, leaving Hiroto with the weaker set B, and her next ability is forced control, allowing her to take control of Hiroto's moves and putting him at an instant disadvantage. Nonetheless, Kagaya remains determined to achieve victory under Rina's leadership. The three brainstorm all possible abilities and cards available in the game, and Hiroto realizes that he would need Kagaya to develop the ancient skill to turn things around. Later that night, Rina decides to stay over as it is too late to head back home, and she ends up sharing the room with Hiroto and gives him a card that allows him to install any rare ability. The next day, Hiroto and Yuki prepare for the game, and as expected, Yuki uses probability fluctuation to obtain the stronger set and then forced control to claim 7 cards on her side. Hiroto also notices that Yuki wastes her undefeatable hero card, reducing the total number of cards to 20, and he realizes Yuki just creates an opening for a draw match, and she had only mentioned not winning. With this revelation, Hiroto activates the afterthought ability to anticipate Yuki's further moves, and they deliberately play cards to ensure Yuki wins all hands, and on the second last card, Hiroto uses his Trojan Horse card, and this card returns 50% of the opponent's collection to the user, resulting in the match concluding as a draw. Akizuki is greatly injured by this outcome, and Hiroto and Yuki confront her about her attempts to defame Hiroto. Yuki knows about the spyware and has evidence of Akizuki tampering with her device, and Akizuki confesses that jealousy drove her actions. Realizing the extent of her actions, Akizuki realizes she had sold her soul to the devil and couldn't stop there, and she contemplates activating the spyware and destroying all data on Yuki's device. This would lead to Yuki's expulsion from Academy Island. However, she also knows that such a drastic move would draw attention to herself. In a desperate move, she jumps behind Yuki, ties her hands, and threatens Hiroto with harm to Yuki, and Akizuki demands one more game, but this time it won't be a trial, it will be a real battle for stars. The game between Hiroto and Akizuki begins, and the selected game is Tabletop Treasure Hunt inside an empty school building. Hiroto realizes that this game cannot result in a win or loss, and the possibility of a draw is eliminated. Hiroto receives a call from Akizuki, and she uses the command to ask if his partner is hiding on or below the third floor. Akizuki also explains the move command, which allows the player to move up by 3 rooms per ruse. Hiroto and Akizuki have concealed their partners in 2 different rooms across the 6th-floor building, with 8 classrooms on each floor, and the objective is to locate the opponent's partner. Hiroto seeks Yuki while Akizuki seeks Sarasa. Akizuki reveals that she is using the double action ability, which grants her 2 consecutive turns. Hiroto contacts Rina to better understand the game and strategize, and she explains the retreat button, which lets them move their partners at the cost of 1 answer point. Akizuki's strategy is to use the double action to corner Hiroto by forcing him to deplete all his answer points. Despite understanding the rules and abilities, Hiroto is still in a difficult situation, and if Yuki wins, he would have to leave the island, and if he loses, his journey ends. Hiroto assures Sarasa that he has a plan, and he claims he'll make Akizuki regret attempting to defeat them through cheating. Using the command he learned from Akizuki, Hiroto discovers that Yuki is on the 3rd floor or below. He moves 3 spaces and ends his turn, and Akizuki uses the double action to narrow down Sarasa's possible location to 2 spots. For the next turn, Hiroto hopes to rely on Kagaya's hacking to pinpoint Yuki's location, but Akizuki employs the area barrier ability, which prevents external server communication, and Hiroto realizes he must rely on Sarasa's expertise for his moves. Hiroto utilizes Sarasa's expert advice to deduce that Yuki's location is Classroom 1K, and Akizuki also manages to narrow down Sarasa's location to Classroom 2I. With accurate predictions on both sides, Akizuki uses her retreat option to move Yuki to another classroom, and losing 1 answer point. Hiroto does the same, shifting Sarasa to another classroom while sacrificing an answer point. Due to the change in classrooms, Yuki has to move on foot and crosses paths with Hiroto. Hiroto is concerned and advises her that it gets quite cold after 10 p.m. and suggests that she warm up the room to avoid catching a cold. Hiroto realizes that Akizuki has been anticipating his moves due to the Green Star's effect throughout the all-campus elimination battle. However, she cannot predict moves devised by Sarasa, and Hiroto decides to exploit this to his advantage. He concludes that Akizuki has hidden Yuki in places he wouldn't consider, so he decides to have Sarasa guide him at every step, and Sarasa uses the information about their current location and easily accessible places to narrow down Yuki's potential locations to 3 rooms, 3E, 3J, or 3 lighters. Akizuki is infuriated and puzzled by how Hiroto narrowed it down. To avoid defeat, Akizuki uses another answer point to retreat and relocate Yuki randomly, and Sarasa becomes anxious about this unpredictable change, but Hiroto reassures her that he has a plan in place. By the 5th turn, both players have used their second retreat option, and Hiroto prolongs the game by engaging in small talk until 10 p.m. Just before the time hits 10 p.m., Hiroto confidently names Classroom 3G as Yuki's location. Akizuki is shocked at how quickly he pinpoints the location, and Hiroto reminds her of the advice he gave Yuki during the first retreat, asking her to stay warm once it's 10. Yuki picks up on this clue and turns on the air conditioning in her classroom, which reflects on the staff room monitor, and Hiroto had secretly placed Yuki in the staff room to convey the monitor reading. Akizuki then reveals her final ability, Alter Fate, which alters Hiroto's answer to never occur, and she rushes to the staff room, where she finds Hiroto's partner. She's stunned to discover that Sarasa was Hiroto's partner all along. Hiroto unveils his pinch hitter ability card. This ability can be used from outside an active game. Yuki employed the card to swap places with Hiroto, and this means Akizuki defeated Yuki, and not Hiroto, thwarting her plan. The abilities transferred by Akizuki to Yuki's device automatically revert to Akizuki's due to the swap, rendering them useless, and without these abilities, Akizuki can no longer hold Yuki hostage. Hiroto has a conversation with Akizuki, and she explains the motives for her actions, and she wanted to be part of the island's grade schools, but they only accepted elite candidates. As a result, she worked hard to become the top student at Amy Academy, and Hiroto ruined it all for her. She confesses that the headmaster of Seijo Academy offered to fulfill her dreams if she defeated Hiroto and took his stars, and she apologizes for trying to harm Yuki and expresses her sadness, acknowledging that this might be her final day on the island. We see Akizuki in the headmaster's office at Seijo Academy, and he insults her for not being able to win against Hiroto and threatens to make her his slave. Just then, Hiroto walks in and reveals that everything has been captured on camera and broadcast to thousands of students. The next day, Headmistress Ichinose addresses the students about the previous night. She goes on to congratulate Hiroto and Akizuki for their performance in the competition, and she also arranges for them to play against each other to determine who will be the Academy's ace. Initially, Akizuki confesses to using illegal means to win against Hiroto and expresses her wish to step down, but Hiroto shows that everyone has forgiven her and instead steps down, allowing her to become the Academy's ace. Headmistress Ichinose goes on to announce the 5 representatives of the May Inter-Academy battle. Later that day, Hiroto goes for a walk with Sarasa, and he discloses to her that he received the green star from Akizuki. Sarasa takes Hiroto to an ability shop that is specifically for couples only and clarifies that she could only enter with a partner, which is why she brought him along. The two enter the store, and the store owner immediately addresses her as Lily, one of her aliases. Sarasa admits that he is her boyfriend, and the store owner then challenges them to hold hands if they are a real couple. After observing the two squabble, the store owner lets them proceed. Upon returning home, Yuki welcomes them back and asks about the date, and she also offers to prepare dinner, but they agree to take a shower first. Yuki suggests that the bathroom is spacious enough for all 3 of them to shower together. Hiroto and Akizuki unwillingly agree and proceed to take a shower together. The next day, Hiroto and Yuki head to the strategy meeting with the Inter-Academy battle members. On the way, Akizuki approaches him, suggesting they are a perfect match since they keep running into each other. However, Yuki dismisses her. They finally reach the classroom and start the meeting, and Yuki explains the first game known as a stroll, and the game lasts from Monday to Friday, with each divided into 10 periods. The game takes place in District 0, which is divided into 1 million spaces with scattered bases. Capturing multiple bases forms a polygon between them, and the goal is for a team to maximize the area they control, and the bases also release usable skills called spells. They are followed by a freeze time during which the player cannot take any action. She also explains the 5-player positions which should be assigned while avoiding overlap, and to win, a team must either dominate all areas or eliminate all other teams, determined when time runs out. She proceeds to explain the significance of life points, which lead to the elimination, and the maximum is 5 life points, which reset at the end of each period. She also mentions the MCCG game that will be played simultaneously, and the top prize is a wild card that can be used to join their chosen team as a 6th member. The team starts assigning positions, and Hiroto needs to take the commander role despite its drawbacks, but these drawbacks are actually beneficial as they align more realistically with his actual skill level. The teammates quickly pick the roles of spy, guardian, and soldier, and at the last moment, Enomoto calls for the commander position. They engage in a discussion about their intentions to become the commander, and Enomoto agrees to let Hiroto be commander on one condition: that Hiroto must eliminate 3 other commanders by the end of the 3rd day, or else transfer the commander position to him, and Hiroto agrees to this condition. Hiroto and Sarasa receive a call from Sarasa's doppelganger, and she challenges Sarasa to defeat Hiroto in the Astral Challenge, and the victor gets to be the real Sarasa, and she also threatens to strip if she refuses the challenge. Hiroto pleads with Kagaya to help him win the competition as the stakes are high, and he needs to eliminate 3 other commanders before the 3rd day and prepare to win against the doppelganger, and she agrees to help him in real time. Hiroto also discusses the abilities he would use the next day and plans to use the abilities of the Indigo Star and the Green Star and one more ability in addition. Yuki reveals the replacement ability which she has been saving for a special occasion. The same night, Sarasa calls Hiroto and expresses her pre-event jitters, and she confides in him about the Aoka kids that keep staring at her and how she won't get to speak to Hiroto, and wishes her good luck and proceeds to call someone asking for help. On the first day of a stroll, all the teammates assemble at the location and the augmented reality is set up for the games to begin. The team starts by experimenting to capture a base, and it gives them an insight into how the game must be played. The team uses their first few minutes to understand the working of the game by experimenting, and Enomoto figures moving east will be the best idea so as to cover maximum distance, and they also decide to make use of the spells released at bases at regular intervals. Akizuki wonders how much the freeze time is for spells, and Nana suggests they can find out if she uses it on Enomoto. Yuki tries out the Conceal spell, which turns out to be 2 times the movement value. At the end of day 1, Aoka Academy holds the most area and Aini Academy has the most supporting votes. The team discusses their rivals as they sit around the table for dinner, but just then Kugazaki walks by taunting Hiroto about wanting revenge, and Yuki warns Hiroto about the Holy Knight Brigade being a formidable opponent. Yuki also mentions Shinra High School and their top player Kuragaya Tuyasama, the absolute monarch, and she tells Hiroto about Kurugugi Senri from Sayuri Girls Academy and her infamous one-shot kill move. Kurugugi overhears the discussion and threatens Hiroto. Once she leaves, Yuki reminds Hiroto about the doppelganger and that she has managed to drag Hiroto into her fight with Sarasa. After dinner, Yuki and Akizuki quarrel over sharing the room with Hiroto, while Nanase and Enmoto refuse to share a room. Sarasa breaks up their quarrel, stating that boys and girls must use different rooms. Later that night, Hiroto wakes up and finds Enomoto asleep, and he decides to go for a bath, and upon returning he sees a little middle school girl trying to reach for some candies, and he decides to buy her a few, and the girl is surprised by the stranger's kindness. The two start talking, and she informs him that she is here for the MTCG as her older sister works for Libra. She also mentions her different colored eyes, and asks Hiroto to play with her, and they visit the arcade. He also wins a toy for her, and towards the end, she feels sleepy and Hiroto carries her back to her room. Half asleep, she requests him to pick up dinner for her from the buffet. On the second day, Hiroto and his team run into the Ibra Academy team with their leader Yuko Kanade, and he offers to form an alliance with Aimi Academy to restrain from invading each other's areas. Just then, Nans attacks one of Ibra Academy's boys as she finds something suspicious. Yukawa calls off the deal and Enomoto jumps into battle to help Nanas. Later that day, Enomoto scolds Nanas for charging into the enemy area without a plan and boasts he is the one who protected her, and Nanas feels offended and tells Enomoto to never talk to her before running away. Day 2 ends with Aoka Academy still with the largest area and Aimi Academy leading in supporting votes, and Aimi Academy has also managed to collect 12 bases. The second day of the competition begins with numerous academy groups getting unexpectedly eliminated by their own teammates. Their teammate is revealed to be none other than Sarasa's doppelganger, who uses her abilities to shapeshift into their own teammates and eliminate the team. Shirayuki shows the video shot by Libra, and they think about a strategy to overcome that, and they decide to always keep their teammates in sight to avoid confusion. Later that night, Hiroto decides to head over to Sarasa's room to discuss the situation. On arrival, she makes him wait for 10 whole minutes before opening the door as she is not dressed properly. She scolds him for looking at her and tells him to look outside the window instead, and Hiroto taunts her about the scandals that could roll on social media if someone saw him through the window. They have a discussion about the shape-shifting ability, and she expresses how unfair it is for the doppelganger to enjoy the fame and status she worked so hard to create, and he also discusses a plan to finish at the top of Astra despite the odds. The next day, the doppelganger continues her carnage as she wipes out entire teams using her ability. Hiroto and his team proceed with caution, but Naas leads the team, walking a few paces ahead, and Enomoto stops her, but she is adamant about being in front. The two begin to quarrel when suddenly someone uses the blackout ability on them. During their argument, Enomoto says she could be Miss 100 Faces, implying he can't trust her before the game ends in the morning. Nanaz walks out and claims she will no longer be a part of the game, and Enomoto follows, saying the same. In the afternoon session, only 3 players from Aimi Academy participated in the game, and they are notified of the 2 groups heading from their north and south. They decide to stay and fight instead of running, and they take formation as Hiroto faces Kuroguchi and her team, while Noa and Shirayuki face another team from the opposite direction. Seeing the 2 of them together, the other team begins to run while the 2 chase them, leaving Hiroto alone to face Tsuyuri Girls Academy. Kuroguchi tells him to be reasonable and stand down, as the odds of winning a 1v5 are unreasonably low, and he proceeds to challenge her and strikes down one of her teammates with a flurry of spell attacks. Just then, Shirayuki reappears behind Hiroto and uses a shield spell to defend Hiroto from Kuroguchi's one-shot kill, and this brings her health down to 1 point. They begin to retreat while Kuroguchi and her team chase them while avoiding the green tiles. Shirayuki stops and challenges Kuroguchi to use her one-shot kill once again. As soon as Kuroguchi slashes one of her teammates, she gets eliminated, and Shirayuki reveals that she used the numeric adjustment to retarget the effect. They then continue to run while Kuroguchi's team follows, and one of the teammates gets eliminated due to a trap laid down by Noa using her expertise. Kuroguchi challenges them, saying they're now out of spells and she can easily take them down, and Shirayuki steps in to defend her master, but Kuroguchi's teammate uses Medusa's magic eye spell to prevent movement for a minute, and Hiroto brings to her attention that she needs her teammate's cooperation to use the one-shot kill. Kuroguchi breaks his bubble, saying she can easily undo that, as the one-shot kill performs best when she's fighting alone and eliminates her own teammate. As Kuroguchi unleashes another slash, Hiroto defends by using another spell, and he reveals that he wasn't out of spells, as the green tiles were a result of his Black Wings ability, but right before he could use any other spell, she used the freeze time ability to evade. Noa returns after taking down the other team, and Hiroto appreciates her skillfulness. Hiroto gets to know about the opponents working under Miss Hundred Faces. Hiroto comes up with a plan, asking them to trust him. Later that night, Enomoto approaches Hiroto to apologize, and he also speaks to him about the fight with Nanas. The two notice Nanas hiding behind a pillar listening to them talk about her, and she begins to tease him for speaking well about her and realizing his mistake. Hiroto breaks the news to them that he had himself eliminated with the intention of landing their team at the bottom of Miss Hundred Faces' target list. Kurahashi celebrating the success of his plan. Hiroto and Sarasa visit Kazami to come up with a strategy to take down Miss Hundred Faces, and he begins by questioning Libra's stance on the matter, and Kazami confesses how terrified she is as it puts the entire Libra organization at stake to indulge in such malpractices. Sarasa and Hiroto promise her that they won't let the competition be ruined by Miss Hundred Faces. Despite the prohibition on interaction, Hiroto, Sarasa, and Shirayuki secretly meet Kazami to discuss the United Army's abilities, and they realize that her ability works in the favor of all the teams supporting her as they automatically tie for second place if she comes first. Hiroto realized that Kurorugi ran away to capitalize on that, and Sarasa noticed the name of Kirigaya Tuya, the holder of the Black Star. Hiroto decides to use the MTCG wildcard entries to make a return and redeem the status of the competition, and realizes his friend Shina Tsumugi is the sixth assassin he has to face off against to clear through. On the fourth day of the competition, Hiroto enters the MTCG with Kazami as his familiar, and Kazami explains the importance of cards, quests, and coins, while Hiroto's goal is to collect more cards to level up his familiar and defeat 5 higher-level opponents before facing the sixth assassin. He can also swap cards for higher-level cards by paying in coins. On top of all that, he can also buy skill cards on his device. Yuko from Ibra Academy tries to get back at him for knocking him out of the competition, showing off his quest stage, but just then a team member from Sayuri approaches Hiroto and offers him 4 cards in exchange for 100 coins. She tells him her intentions and her desire to see the fall of Miss Hundred Faces, as her leader Kurorugi was forced to join hands with them to secure the victory, and Hiroto assures her that he will take care of them. Hiroto immediately jumps into his first fight against a level 6 and manages to win by predicting the level of his opponent's cards, and Hiroto realizes he needs coins if he has to speed run through the MTCG. He decides to give up a number card for a reward card, leaving everyone stunned, but the card's disparity is so huge that they come with an additional 99,000 coins, and with this advantage, Hiroto continues to advance through his opponents. Finally, he comes across Tatara and Tsuji, who offer to trade their 2 9-number cards with him to help him accomplish his goal. This brings Hiroto's familiarity to level 27, but just then Kagaya calls in as she is unable to access Tsumu's personal data and urges him to squeeze it out soon. Just then, Yukawa manages to reach the 6th assassin and taunts Hiroto, and the battle between Yukiwa and Shina begins. However, it is short-lived. Despite having level 33, Yukiwa isn't able to take down the 6th assassin. Just in time, Hiroto figures out that Shina is using a negative 99 familiar and thus always manages to be less than the player. Hiroto quickly informs Kagaya about it, and Hiroto uses his Exceed Limit card to level up to 30 and reveals that Kagaya hacked into her level to change it to 30, making their levels equal. This wins Hiroto the battle and earns him the wild card entry to advance back into the game. Hiroto then challenges her real identity as he believes she is Miss Hundred Faces, and Shina confirms his belief by threatening him for the rest of the competition. Hiroto makes a return to the game after the wild card entry and the principal plots against Hiroto and Ami Academy, and discusses the teams that aren't under Miss Hundred Faces' control, and they compare how many are versus how many aren't under her control. He tells them about the illegal tactics used by the former Seijo headmaster Kurahashi and her unfair advantages. He tells them that the Demon Maiden might still be able to take her down despite her 999 health, and they decide to defeat Kurorugi, ask for her help, and create a plan to face her. They also decide to ask their ally, Ami Academy, for a base, while Hiroto decides to act as a decoy so that Enomoto and Akizuki can meet up with Ami Academy. Just as they proceed, they are intercepted by another team and Kuroguchi, and Nanas quickly takes out 2 of their members. Following that, Kuroguchi's bonding is undone, allowing her to take out 1 member from Ami Academy, and Nanas charges at Kuroguchi while Kuroguchi unleashes a slash, and the slash is deflected by Enomoto, and they don't let her make a move. Defeating Kuroguchi, Hiroto tells her about her teammates' sentiments before asking for help. Meanwhile, Sarasa hides from her foes after losing her entire team, and Kurahashi confidently walks the field along with his teammates. They come face to face with Aimi Academy. A battle breaks out between the two groups. Kirigaya unleashes a spell that is a combination of various spells on Hiroto but is blocked by Himeji, and Enomoto steps in between to buy Hiroto some time to strategize. He asks Himeji to use her ability, causing Kirigaya's sword to disappear. Enomoto and Nanase attack the opponent team, but just then Hiroto eliminates Minami by combining Magic Blast and Sword Flash. Just then, Kirigaya unleashes a double sword and takes out Enomoto and Nanase, and Akizuki puts herself against Kirigaya, but ends up getting eliminated as well. But Kirigaya gets trapped in an ability, rendering him unable to move. Kirigaya blasts out of the trap as well and generates a force field around him to prevent him from being attacked. A ray of light blasts within the force field, and Kurahashi reveals himself as the culprit, and he professes his devotion to the Empress and swears to take down the fake Empress. Kurahashi strikes Kirigaya down, but right before passing, he uses his last ability to shoot Hiroto, and Himeji jumps in between to save him, gets shot on his behalf, and gets eliminated. Kurahashi assigns the fate of his Empress to Hiroto, who shoots himself to get eliminated. Sarasa faces her doppelganger and falls after a couple of attacks, but just then Kuroguchi jumps up and uses her one-shot kill against the doppelganger. As the smoke clears, the doppelganger walks out, shoots Kuroguchi down, and approaches Sarasa, and right before the doppelganger strikes Sarasa down, the bell goes off, indicating the end of a period. We see Hiroto meet up with Sarasa to discuss their strategy, and he requests Sarasa to hide while he discusses a plan with his teammates. They decide to play a game with an Astral to win against Miss Hundred Faces. On his way back, he comes across Sheena, who drags him along to play video games. Sheena appears unaffected by their rivalry, making Hiroto question if she really is Miss Hundred Faces, and expresses her intentions to get into high school and the help she received from someone called Mikado. Hiroto tucks her into bed before leaving. The final day of Astral begins with Hiroto and Sarasa reviewing their progress face to face, and Hiroto reminds Sheena about the initial challenge and the rules she had set, and he claims that he doesn't have to face either of them and simply runs away to avoid losing. However, that contradicts his intentions to win Astral, and Hiroto proposes playing a different game called Crossboard instead. Sheena agrees to play the crossboard, and Hiroto explains the rules where they have to try and capture each other's spaces, and he challenges both of them to destroy all of Aimi's spaces to claim the title of Empress. They begin with the match using their options to conquer or encroach on an area along with the options to collect, disrupt, or move. Despite having only 2 spaces, Hiroto doesn't conquer their areas, and simply uses encroach and disrupt. Sarasa realizes that with only 2 spaces of Aimi, neither of them can conquer, as a wrong prediction of the core ensures the other person's victory, but just then, Sheena's area begins to increase, taking up Oka Academy spaces without her even making the move. Hiroto realizes this is the doings of Kurohashi using corrupt copies to take over Oka Academy spaces. Just then, multiple spaces begin to turn into Aimi Academy spaces, and Hiroto reveals that Enomoto and Nanase coordinating to capture spaces after using a wild card entry, and Kurahashi isn't happy with their progress and decides to call Kirigaya to handle them. Kirigaya, however, declines to help, claiming he doesn't want to get into any trouble. Just then, Sheena isn't able to move autonomously and starts touching zones to simply make them hers, and Hiroto realizes Kurahashi has taken full control of her, and Hiroto uses his ability tracking ability to confront Kurahashi, claiming he will expose him. Just then, Shirayuki bursts through the wall along with many other furious players and makes him surrender. Shirayuki takes control of the board and turns the entire board green, and Sheena admits her defeat but also feels guilty about her actions, and Hiroto decides not to say anything as it isn't his place to pass judgment. Kazami appears and asks Sheena about her experience, and Sheena claims it was an amazing experience, and Kazami expresses her happiness with the answer. Kazami doesn't hold her ties with Kurahashi against her. Sarasa takes a few spaces for Oka Academy to balance it out, and Hiroto has a reunion with his group, and they celebrate their victory together. And that's how the season ends. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Let me know what you think about this anime in the comments. And as always, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you all in the next video.